especially rollovers, those items are going everywhere. Somebody said, well, let's put the heavier items on the floor. In a rollover, those items are going everywhere. We had a trooper involved in a crash, and we thought we had everything mounted down. We mount everything down. We thought we had his stuff mounted down good, and he got injured in a crash. In my vehicle out here, if you'll notice, I've got a cage in the back. That cage isn't for prisoners. It's to keep that junk away from me because I carry all kinds of stuff. I've got some handout material that I don't have anything for you guys today, but when I go to schools and stuff like texting and seat belts and things like that, I've got some handouts for them. That stuff, I don't have any way of really fastening that stuff down in the back there because I carry so much. So they just put a cage in so that if I'm involved in a rollover crash, that stuff can't get to me. One of the ways to fasten that stuff down is a lot of the SUVs will have those little D-rings or anchors in the back. If you've got suitcases and things like that, just go out to Walmart and buy those little ratchet straps. Hook those in those D-rings, put those suitcases underneath there through the handles or over the top and ratchet them down. The computer bags, if that's what you've got, set them in the back seat right behind you or over on the passenger side, either one. If you've got the kind that has what we call the automatic locking seat belts up here for the shoulder strap, one way to tell if you've got the automatic lock is to pull that shoulder strap all the way out, stick your ear up there by it. When that strap's going back in slowly, you can hear that thing click. If it clicks, that means that if you jerk it real quick, it won't come out. That means that it's locking, okay? But you have to pull the strap all the way out, then let it go all the way back in, and then as it's going all the way back in, pull it tight. That'll lock that computer case right there behind you, and then if you're involved in a rollover, that seat belt will hold it in, okay? But run it through the handles of the case so that if you're involved in a rollover, that stuff won't go flying around in there. But you need to secure that stuff down, all right? So that if you're involved in a crash, it won't come flying up and hit you in the back of the head. That's one of the things we talk about, and we didn't have time there, but one of the things we talk about is you as the driver has control of that vehicle. John gets in and says, okay, everybody, buckle up. And Fred says, nah. And he's sitting right behind John in the back seat. Fred says, I don't believe in that stuff. If John don't want to go, he can either kick Fred out or say, go get in somebody else's car. Now, John won't get the ticket. Fred will if I catch him, doing something wrong. But if they're involved in a head-on crash and John's seat belted down in the chair right behind the steering wheel, he's not going anywhere. That seat belt's going to hold him right there. Well, here comes Fred flying right through the air, and his head is going to have contact with his head, possibly. We could have a fatality. We could have two people with severe injuries, possibly paralyzation. I worked, and it's a sad story, but I worked a fatality. A mother had two children in child seats. The children were strapped in the seats. One seat was buckled to the car. One seat was not buckled in the car. She came to an intersection and a pickup truck, it was uncontrolled, there were no stop signs. They got to the intersection and the pickup truck T-boned the car. The car seat went flying through the air and hit the other child that was buckled down. They hit head to head and one child died. Okay? Now the child was buckled to the car seat, but the seat was not buckled to the car. Okay? You become a flying object or missile in that car if you're not buckled in. And if one person is buckled in and the other person is not buckled in, then you're going to become a flying missile or object. And it's like the video said, there's three parts to a crash: the car, the person, and your internal organs. And if you're driving well, it's not rocket science, and I didn't take rocket science, but if your car's going 65, your body's going 65. It's going to stop. Something's going to stop it. Either that seatbelt's going to stop you or that crash is going to stop you. Whatever you hit's going to stop you. And in this case we just talked about, Fred's body is going to be stopped by John's body because he hits Fred, or Fred hits John in the back, and that's what's going to stop him. So make sure you have those items buckled down or buckled in or whatever, because it can be just as damaging. Even though you don't hit anything, those items can do as much damage to you by not being tied down or buckled down or whatever. Okay? Anything else on seat belts? Yes?
The seat belt always hits me across my neck. If I've got my coat on, I kind of push it down. But what do I do about that? Because they're not adjustable in my car.
Okay, that's a good question. And another lady asked me that about her child. One of the things that is a myth, there has never been a recording anywhere, United States, anywhere in the world, of anybody dying or being strangled from a shoulder strap. Okay, that's a myth. You can go to a dealership of the manufacturer of your car or to maybe an auto parts store, and you can buy a piece that will go around your lap belt. It will come up and it'll connect to this shoulder strap here, and you can take the adjustment here and it'll pull this shoulder strap down. Just make sure that it's approved by NHTSA or somebody like NHTSA, because you can also buy them at Walmart. And if it says this has been approved by Walmart and has a smiley face on it, I can't guarantee that it's safe to use. Okay? So it has to be approved by somebody that's done testing on it. All right? So if Walmart has them and it says that it's been tested by NHTSA or some automobile group or somebody that's reputable, then you can buy it at Walmart. I'm just saying it has to be tested because it has to withstand the forces of a crash. Okay? And that'll pull that shoulder strap down off the side of your neck. What that does when it's on the side of your neck is it causes severe bruising. You're not going to die. That's a myth. Nobody's ever died from being strangled or killed from a seatbelt. Anything else? Any other questions on seatbelts? All right. I had a little problem the other day when I went to the doctor, and I want to show you what that problem was. If that's your doctor like mine, I recommend you get a new one. Had a problem with my cat the other night too. All right. Does anybody in here have one of them headsets that you talk while you're shopping?
That's a lot of money for a deck. Well, I hate to tell you this, but you're getting robbed. Did you hear me? You're getting robbed.
You might be careful if you have one of those headsets and talking while you're out there shopping, because you never know when you're going to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. All right. How many of you committed a traffic violation while coming to work today? What traffic violation did? What? Speeding? Okay. All right. I'll be watching for you when I leave. What else? Who else? Who else committed a traffic violation on the way to work today? Okay, what was it? Okay, that's more of a distraction. We're going to talk about that next. Traffic violation. Passing in a no passing zone. Okay, Arkansas, your California stops. Okay, what else? All right, I ask these 5 questions when I do a defensive driving course. What distraction did you commit on the way to work today? Talking on a cell phone. All right. What else? Same, okay. Radio, eating. What else? What is it? Okay, people that don't slow down for the 20-mile-an-hour zones. All right. What other distractions? Okay, not paying attention to your driving. How about grooming? Did anybody groom on the way to work today? Combing your hair, putting on makeup. Distracted by the, okay, farming while driving. Did anybody do that today? I did. Okay, geese in the air. All right. We're going to talk about texting while driving and or distractions. It all falls under the same group. About 6 months ago, the East Region Major, which is Major Goodlow out of Topeka, he came to the 3 PROs in the East Region and he said, I've got a task for you 3. And he said, I want you to work on it very diligently and I want to see what we can get done about it. We have a growing, very rapidly epidemic in Kansas. And it's texting while driving. And we're not doing a very good job of enforcing it. I want to know why. I want to know what we can do about it. Well, we 3 went to work. We divided it into 3 categories. We divided it into education, enforcement, and legislative review. I took the education portion of it and I put this little PowerPoint together and I got my eyes open pretty wide. Okay? What age group do you think is at the biggest fault? What years of range do you think is at the biggest fault for texting while driving? What was it? Age 40? Okay, it goes in a big wide range. I'll give you that hint. 17 to 34. 17 to 34. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not more people doing it. That just means that is the biggest range of people that are texting while driving. That is the biggest range, age group of people texting while driving. And it is an epidemic, and I mean it is big. How many of you on your cell phone bill have at least 5,000 texts a month? Okay, we got 2 that will at least admit to it. I give this program a lot to high school students, seniors especially, because high school students are probably the biggest texters. Maybe not texting while driving, but they're the biggest texters. I don't even start at 5,000. I quit starting at 5,000 over a year ago. I start at 10,000 with seniors. Now boys, senior boys don't have that much to say. They're still down around 2,500, 3,000. Okay? Senior girls. I went to Fredonia High School and did this program about 10 days ago. And I started at 10, and I probably had half the room with their hands up. And I got to 12. I still had about half, or about maybe 2/3 dropped their hands. I got to 15 and I had 3 girls that had their hands up. 15,000 text messages a month. 15,000 text messages a month. All right. I want you to look at some of these stats here. 23% of all automobile involved a cell phone. That's not texting. That is just a cell phone. Do you have a policy on cell phones here, Fred? Driving and cell phones. Is there a policy? Can you use your cell phone while driving? All right. That is just a cell phone. 23%. That's 1.3 million crashes in the United States. 1.3 million crashes in the United States involving cell phones. We have had so many crashes in the state of Kansas involving electronic devices that we now, get this, we don't call them accidents anymore, but we still call it an accident form. We have had to add a category on our form as a possible cause for the crash, called electronic devices. And it lists GPS, cell phones, iPods, iPads, all of those electronic devices are included in that. 5 seconds is the minimal amount of time your attention is taken away for the average text message. If I send a text message, the average text message that the people are sending today takes about 5 seconds to read. Now, the 2 ladies in here that raised their hands that had about the most text messages, can you text without looking? Okay, can anybody in here do that? Well, yeah, with your voice, but you have a smartphone with the app on it. Okay, but can you actually pull your phone out and do this without looking? Okay. I'll guarantee you those high school students can, especially those with $15,000 a month. You know, I grew up on a farm, and when we went to the elevator and sold our crop, is anybody in here an accountant? The money man? John can get up to an adding machine and he can do that, those numbers without even looking, you know. When I was a little kid, we'd go in there and Dad'd sell the crops, and we'd go in there and that lady would give us our checks. She'd just, man, I wanted to do that. That was so cool. I thought that was the neatest thing. Add those figures up. Yeah, I'd go home and I'd sit there and figure that out by hand because I thought sure she made a mistake. She wasn't even looking. She had to make a mistake. And now, I go to the high schools, and I have those students turn their phones on because if the school lets them keep their phones, they make them turn it off because they cheat. They send each other the test questions and answers. But I let them turn it on, and I'll have a girl on this side of the room, a high school senior, turn her phone on, and I'll have a boy over here on this side turn his phone on, and I'll say, okay, send him a text message, and I want more than, hi, what you doing, or hey, what's up, or whatever. And I don't want you looking at your phone. And she'll turn that thing on, and she'll close her eyes, and she'll go. And his phone over here, in a couple of minutes, will ding or ring or whatever he's got it set for. And I do this as part of the exercise. And I tell them that this exercise takes about 5 seconds. and I've got a pre-canned text. And I bring that guy up, and I sit him down in a seat. And I say, this is a car. Sit down in your car and put both hands on the steering wheel, properly positioned. Put your foot on the gas. We're going to drive down the highway. Today, you're lucky, we're going to get to go 55. And I get behind him, and I've got my mouth right in his ear. And I say, without looking at that phone, read me the text. And he looks up at me like, well, you're a nut. I can't read that text to you. Now, I know that there are apps out there for your cell phone that will read incoming text messages. I know that because I did all the research for this. But those high school students don't have that on their phones because that's no fun. That's no fun to have somebody reading your text messages to you. So he'll get the phone, he'll get his phone out. I say, okay, well, if you can't read it without looking at it, then read it to me. So he gets his phone out and he keeps one hand up here on the steering wheel and he puts that phone down here. And he'll start to read it and I'll say, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be safer to put the phone up here so you can see the road and the steering wheel and everything? Oh, I can't. So he puts it back down here and he starts to read again. Oh, wait a minute. Put that phone down here, up here. I can't. Well, why can't you? Why I can't. Well, I finally make him tell me why he can't. Well, he can't because you'll give me a ticket. So he's got the phone down there in his lap. Well, see, we didn't have this law until about a year and a half ago. And that's where they had their phones, was right up here. And when we saw them, we gave them, well, we didn't have a law a year and a half ago. And then we passed a law. Can't text while driving, it's dangerous. So now they put it down here. Well, we're driving down the road and we see him looking down. So I'm telling him, okay, you've read me the text message. I've got a canned text message that I read to him, and I tell him, I want you to start counting 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. I want you to start counting like that, and I want you to count until you hear me stop. And I start. Hi, this is Rick. Meet me behind the football stadium tonight after the football game. They count, and they get to 5, some 6. That's 5 seconds. Look on the screen. If you're traveling at 55 miles per hour, this equals driving the length of a football field without looking at the road. John, you're driving down the road. Somebody between the ages of 17 and 34, which are the most active at texting while driving, is text messaging, and they're not even looking at the road. What are you going to do? Hope they don't cross the center line. If you don't get anything else out of what I'm telling you and talking about today, here's the deal. Everybody in this room has to have a plan. Have you played these scenarios over and over and over in your mind? Here's Fred driving down the highway. And he looks up, he's supposed to be scanning about 3/4 of a second ahead. In Kansas, I tell everybody, scan until the next hill or until the next county road. Because our roads are flat enough, or they got a little rise in them, you can scan that far. And when you're scanning, I'm talking about your eyes are scanning back and forth. You don't have to turn your head, your eyes will just automatically go back and forth. We've got enough wildlife around here that you need to be watching for deer, you need to be watching for turkeys, you need to be watching these side roads. We live in an agricultural state, And farmers farm now 365 days a year. Just night before last, we're putting on anhydrous. You need to be scanning. And here comes John tootling down this gravel road, and we've all been there. We got our hands on the steering wheel, properly positioned. We're driving 65 miles an hour. We're scanning. We notice John coming down the road, and we're starting to think, is he going to stop? Because he's starting to approach that stop sign, and he's still going the speed limit. What's the legal speed limit on a gravel road? 55. That's the legal speed limit. But if you have a crash on a gravel road, I'll probably cite you for speeds too fast for conditions. The reason you had a crash is probably because you lost it in the gravel of that road. You were going too fast. But here comes John, and getting closer and closer to that stop sign, and so's John and Fred. And Fred's starting to go, is he going to stop? Fred has to have a plan. Fred's driving down the highway. Somebody starts to cross that center line and come into your lane. Shelley, what are you going to do? Slow down. What else? Is that all you're going to do? Okay, try to get over. Anything else? Okay. See what I'm talking about, folks? You have to play these scenarios over in your head before it ever happens. Don't wait till your time is up. Play these scenarios over. A car comes over into your lane. What are you going to do? Have a plan. It's not a matter of if, it's when. You're driving 2 million miles a year in this agency. It's going to happen. Have a plan. When that car starts to come over into your lane, what do we have horns for? What are they doing? They're looking down. Honk your horn. Get their attention. Flash your headlights. Do whatever it takes to get their eyes off of that phone and back up on the road. Pull to the right. We never teach go to the left. You go over to the left and they look back up. What is their natural instinct? Go back into their own lane. Now we got a head-on crash. Okay? Go to the right. If you go to the right, what do you start immediately looking for? What kind of shoulders do I have? We teach, do all of your hard braking on the hard surface. Hard braking means stomp on those brakes. Get that speed reduced as much as you possibly can. Fast. Lock them up if you have to. Get them stopped. Then when you get on that gravel, you're not sliding all over the place. If you've got to leave the road, that's better than a head-on crash. Have a plan. You've got to think of these scenarios ahead of time. Where does UPS park? Wherever they want. That's exactly right. Wherever they want. Has anybody in here ever saw a sign in town that said, that's probably good English for all you English teachers in here, ever saw. Have you ever seen a sign in a town that says UPS park here? No, they don't make them. They can't get those trucks down our little narrow alleys, so when they pull up to a business, they park right in front of it. You're driving down a city street. The car in front of you slams on its brakes. What's your name? Michael, you're following too close. Now you got to slam on your brakes. What are you going to do? You're in a city street. They're parked over here. You can't go to the right. Now what are you going to do? All right, you're following too close. We need to think of this stuff before it ever happens. There's a car behind you. Did you think about looking in your rearview mirror to see what's behind you before you stomped on your brakes? Probably not. See, folks, we got to play these scenarios over and over in our mind before they ever happen. Yes, ma'am.
So my scenario yesterday morning on the turnpike, 6 o'clock in the morning, was on 175, dark, and there are headlights moving, coming towards me on my side of the turnpike. And there's somebody behind me, so I don't know that's stopping, I don't know they're going right, because from what I can tell, it's in my lane. I finally get over to the left, well, come to find out it's a wrecker picking up a car that has its headlights on. And so I did the same thing. It's like, what is the scenario and what's going to happen and what's going to be my path of least resistance? And it happens so fast.
Right. But we need to be prepared, folks, and that's what I'm telling you is, if you don't take anything else out from here today, is play these scenarios over in your mind. Have a plan. Having no plan is not an answer. Waiting until something happens. I went to a defensive driving class one day, and the guy said, guess I'll just hang on to the steering wheel and hope for the best. That's not a plan. You know, we may be coming to your funeral if that's what you're going to hope for. That is not a plan. Anyway, back to the student. It takes about 5 minutes before he gets a simple sentence of 5 seconds read, because I'm shouting out stuff like, stop! There's a car in front of you turning, put your foot on the brake. And he has to stop looking at the text message and react to the situation in front of him. And it takes about 5 minutes to get that simple sentence that should have only took 5 seconds to read, but if he's paying attention to the road of all the things that's happening, look out, there's a deer in front of you. When he's looking at and I tell them, how many of you students in here will go out and get in my patrol car, I'll put a blindfold on, we'll go out on 400 highway, I'll drive 65 miles an hour, and we'll do that for the length of the football field. How many of you will get in a patrol car and ride with me? Oh, none of them will. But yet they'll get on their cell phones and go out there and text without looking at the road for the length of a football field. No difference. None. "23 times more likely to be involved in a car crash if you're texting while driving. 23 times more likely. $2.8 times more at risk if you're just dialing the phone, 1.3 more times more at risk, and 1.4 times more risk if you're just reaching for it. David Strayer is a professor at Utah. And we say, oh, everybody's got to go to hands-free. Everybody's got to go to hands-free. It's safer. No, it's not. And the reason why, and I can prove it, he's already proven it. He's got a big driving simulator at his college. He's a professor out there. And he says, you know, our legislators won't pass a bill saying that we can't use cell phones in the state of Kansas because they say our young students today are multitasking. It's not multitasking. Driving is one thing, and texting while driving or talking on a cell phone is a total separate thing all of its own. How many of you in here today operated a piece of heavy machinery before you came to work? 1, 2, 3. That's all? That's a car. Fred's right, it's a car. How many of you automatically thought I was talking about a bulldozer or a track hoe? Exactly. It's a car. Because if I took Fred's car, what are you driving today, Fred? Camry. If I took Fred's car out here in the parking lot and we had Shelley stand in the middle of the parking lot and we took Fred's car and we ran over her, do you think Shelley would get up and say, boy, that wasn't heavy? That was light. That wasn't heavy. A heavy piece of machinery is a car. The average weight of the automobile on the road today is 4,500 pounds. That's a piece of heavy machinery. And we drive those up and down the highways every day, and we're operating heavy machinery. We do that every day, and we get out there, we operate this heavy machinery, and we're operating those things. Okay, Fred's married. He gets into a slight disagreement with his wife this morning at breakfast. He, being a gentleman, says, "Yes, dear," and walks out the door. Gets in his car. Now, Fred knows, because he took my defensive driving course 2 weeks ago, that talking on the cell phone is dangerous, so he puts it on Bluetooth. But Fred, being the gentleman that he is, cannot let this go. So he hits speed dial, and it calls his wife, and she says, "Yes, dear." And he says, "You know that time that you did this?" And she says, "Yes, what about it?" "Well, that's the same thing that you're doing now." And the discussion begins again. Now, before Fred called, since he took my defensive driving course, he was scanning. Now, when we scan clear out here. We do an exercise in our defensive driving courses. I can see my fingers wiggling. When we're scanning clear out here. Now, as Fred begins to have his discussion, she says something and he says something, and the more he starts talking about this discussion, the madder he gets. Now, Fred has decided he's not going to be Mr. Nice Guy anymore because he's starting to lose this argument. What is Fred's scanning doing now? It's decreasing. It's over here now. It was here, now it's here. Okay? Now, his wife says, "Well, if that's the way you're going to be, Fred, no more golfing on Saturdays." When she says that, where is it now? Fred's scanning is right here, right now, isn't it? He's lost it all. And Fred's on Bluetooth. Doesn't even have that cell phone up to his ear. It doesn't matter if you've got the cell phone to your ear or if you've got it on Bluetooth. He has now got tunnel vision. He's not paying any attention to where he's driving or what's going on with his driving. He's not multitasking. Our legislators say that these kids are multitasking today in school. They're not multitasking because driving is one thing and talking or texting on a cell phone is totally different. Everybody in this room is almost as old as I am, about 39 or 40 years of age. What did we do when we got home from school as kids? Went outside and played. If we didn't play, we had chores. And I'm not saying this bad, and I got to hurry up. It's about time to quit. I'm not saying this is bad, but what do the kids do today? What? Video games, electronic type stuff. Okay? I'm not saying that's bad. But the legislators think that since they're so good at electronic stuff, they can drive and do electronic stuff. No. Driving takes all of your full-time attention. Not talking on a cell phone. I can further prove it. I'm sitting out here on the highway and I'm running radar. I'm watching for everything. I'm scanning. I'm watching for seat belts. I'm watching for texting while driving. I'm watching for speed. I'm watching for everything because the month is about over and I'm going to win that free toaster. Okay? So I'm scanning. Dispatch puts out that a red Ford Mustang just robbed the bank in Girard, and it's headed west on K-47 at a high rate of speed. And right past me it goes. Now, I was out here. When that red Ford Mustang went past me, I call dispatch and I say, 81 Chanute, it just went past me, and when it went past me, what did my vision do? Where am I focused now? I'm tunneled in on a red Ford Mustang. And I'm tunneled in, and guess what? Here comes John, tootling down that gravel road going 55 miles an hour. Do I see him coming down that gravel road? And I'm zeroed in on that red Ford Mustang. A big temptation right here. Anybody surf the web while driving to work today? High school students. Every time I get there, I ask them, anybody surf the web today on the way to school? 3 students raised their hand at Fredonia. Surf the web while driving. Google Glass. Have you heard of it? Google Glass. It's a product out by Google. They look like a pair of glasses, something kind of similar to mine. You put them on, there's a little curve right here. It's got about an inch screen on it. You tap the sides, it changes from texting to emails to surfing the web. All you got to do is tap the side over here like this, and it'll change to the next function. 3 students admitted to surfing the web while driving. David Strayer says, in certain cases, texting while driving is more dangerous than somebody under the influence of alcohol. Part of the reason why is because teens who text while driving spend about 10% of the time outside of their lane. If you're close to being over the influence of alcohol, our studies show that you are over the limit or close to over the limit. You don't spend 10% out of the time of your lane. You may weave back and forth. You may touch that center line. You may touch that white line on the edge of the road, but you're not. 1 in 5 have surfed the web while texting while driving. What can we do about it? Talk to our kids. Simply don't do it. Social media, aggressive enforcement. You know why we can't enforce it? They've got their phone down here. When we see they're down here like this driving down the road, we know what they're doing. But I turn around and I stop you. I say, John, I know what you're doing. You're texting. And he goes, nope, checking the weather. That's legal in the state of Kansas. That is legal. You can check your weather while you're driving down the road. You can type in an address on your GPS, on your phone. This isn't a phone. That's a computer. If you've got a smartphone, that is a computer. You can check your GPS. You can check the weather. I got a WeatherBug app on here. All I got to do is tap it, and it'll tell me the forecast for the next 10 days. You can do all that while driving. It's not illegal. And if I say, no, John, you were texting, give me your phone, pack sand, trooper. He does not have to give me his cell phone. The only way I can get his cell phone is with a search warrant. I go into the judge. Judge, I saw John texting. Yeah, right. I ain't giving you a search warrant for that. I can get one if there's a serious injury or death involved. Not for just texting while driving.
So what is the fine for texting while driving?
$60 plus court costs.
In New York, it's $500.
Alaska is the worst, $10,000. You can have it all. You can teach the class.
No, I don't want to teach the class, but I know you're talking 17 to 34, and I am guilty of everything that you've talked about today.
Okay.
I certainly don't fit that age group.
Come and visit with me in my car.
Yeah, no, I know, and I am. So I mean, and it certainly makes you, even though we are educated and even though we know, we should. I do. So I will work at not doing it.
Okay? I appreciate that.
You would love this, or I would.
Okay. Here are some mobile apps. If you want to take a picture, jot this down, or if you want me to send you, if you've got an email address, I can send these to you, whatever. But these are some mobile apps. If you've got kids, Eyes Up sends calls directly to voicemail and waits to deliver text messages until your car stops. A lot of these are free. Some cost money. If you've got teenagers, drive safely, reads text out loud and allows you to respond without ever touching the phone. Text caution disables text while your car is moving and also has a notification to place alert parents when the app is removed. Drive off when a device is traveling at over 10 miles an hour. This app will shut off and distract apps on your device, hold incoming calls and text. Text Buster, this is a more advanced app that requires a device installed in the car. Will disable texting while drive, but allows phone calls and GPS. Drive Scribe, this one will block text when the car is in motion, but also let the user know that they're driving too fast. This one does require the driver to start the app before driving. There's another one called Text Buster. You have to have a technician come out and install that on your car. It does keep a log and sends to your parent's phone. This is for teenagers. It sends a text message to the parents telling them your child's speed, how fast they're going, where they're at all times, and puts a curfew on it so that it starts beeping their phone, telling them when they're supposed to be home and what time they have to be home. If they try to disable it, it sends you a text message telling you that they're trying to disable it. There is a fee for it. Costs about $250 to have it installed, and then there's a fee for about $20 a month for that one. It's called Text Buster, I think is what it's called. I've got some other apps at the office. AT&T has one. If you're an AT&T subscriber, it's free. I don't know what it's called. What we're doing is we have a bill in legislature right now. The three of us introduced it to the legislature. We put it in the Transportation Committee. They threw it out. AT&T threw a big fit. And so Transportation Committee right now has it thrown out. It's still in, but we don't know what's going to happen to it right now. AT&T said it cost too much money. Cost them too much money. If all we're trying to do, and it doesn't stop anything other than the fact that we were just trying to get it to the point where it would make it more so we could enforce the law. We were trying to make it an advancement in fines to where if you got one today, it would cost $60. If you got one tomorrow, it'd be $120. If you got one the next day, it'd be $240. And your third time, it would go on your driver's license, so it'd make your insurance go up. If we did that, we would get some federal money, some federal aid money to help us with educational programs and things like that. AT&T so far has got more lobbyists than we do, so therefore it's been thrown out. Any questions? Because I'm out of time. I've got one more little thing I want to show you. It takes about a minute, and that's all. If you don't have any, I'll be around here tearing stuff down too, so.
This is the city. Los Angeles, California. Some people rob for pleasure. Some rob because it's there. You never know. My name's Friday. I'm a cop. I was working the day watch on a robbery when I got a call from the Acme School Bell Company. There'd been a robbery. There's been a robbery. Yes, sir? What was it? My clappers. Your clappers. Yeah, you know those things inside a bell that makes them clang? The clangers. That's right, we call them clappers in business. A clapper caper. What's that? Nothing, sir. Now, can I have the facts? What kind of clappers were stolen?
Anybody have any other questions? Texting, seat belts, anything else? Any questions about any of the laws you might not know or think are current? Turn your headlights on, dusk to dawn. Signals, minimum 100 feet. Dim your headlights 500 feet, 300 from behind. Inclement weather, headlights have to be on. Make sure you reach down and turn those headlights on, because if you just have daytime running lights, your tail lights are not on. We want the headlights on with the tail lights. Okay, so make sure you're doing that. I can't think of anything else. Inclement weather means snow, smoke, fog. Make sure you're running your low beams on fog, smoke, any of those things. I'll be up here taking my stuff down. Takes me a little bit to take the computer down. If you have any questions, feel free. I'll be up here for a little bit. That's all I have for you today.